The pumpkin candle is lit, and it is now officially October. Hey everyone, welcome back to Reissued. If you're new here, my name is Andrew. Today we're going to be doing a little Halloween-ish front porch decor using thrifted materials and things that I already had around the house. Now, I'm using the term Halloween-ish or Halloween light because I find the idea of full-blown Halloween to be a little bit intimidating, especially as a content creator here on YouTube. A lot of people go crazy with Halloween decor, and I'm just not sure I have that in me. I find Halloween decor to be really expensive, to be something that requires a lot of storage in the off season. Also, I've never really decorated for Halloween as an adult outside of carving pumpkins, which I do plan to do with Matt in the coming weeks. But yeah, starting from scratch is giving me what I call the Williams-Sonoma effect. I'll explain that one later. But still, autumn is my favorite season and I want to feel a little bit festive this year. So my goals for my front porch decor are: 1. Spend as little as possible. 2. Use as many things as I already have around the house as possible. 3. When acquiring new items, trying to think about cross-seasonal decor or things that I might like in my space anyway so that I'm minimizing the amount of storage that I need to have for these items in the off-season. And 4. Not getting super stressed out about it. This is supposed to be fun. I feel like I might be failing at that one a bit already, but the goal here is to feel fun and festive and spooky, so let's jump on it. So I decided to focus my decor efforts on the front porch, mostly because I don't really care about Halloween decor that much in my house. I think it's something that I want to project more to the neighborhood. People in my area go crazy for Halloween and Christmas decor, so I want to up my game a little bit this year. So yeah, we're keeping our Halloween vibes very front-facing for the neighborhood. That meant that the front porch needed a little love and a little preparation. This was looking pretty dingy. We hadn't cleaned the space at all since the porch makeover last year, so last weekend we power washed everything out front so it's looking bright and shiny and clean. And then as I was putting together items for the space, I realized that a lot of it was going to be focused on this little table that I have by my front door. And if you remember from the porch makeover video, this was a table that I thrifted where the top was unfinished. It seemed like there was some sort of piece that attached there before that was now missing, and so the plan all along had been to tile this tabletop. And so, because we're going to be focused in on that table, and because I'm overly ambitious, we decided to go ahead and finish off that table. Let me show you how that went. The goal is to inset the tile so that it's flush with the edge of the table, but since we don't have much experience with the router, we had to get creative. We noticed that the top veneer was pulling up a bit at the corner, so let's see if we can take that whole top layer off. With a little coaxing and some heat from a hairdryer, we were able to loosen the veneer all the way around the edge without damaging it. Next, let's decide on a placement for the tile. I wanted a symmetrical placement and a roughly equal sized strip of wood around the edge. With a little trial and error, I found that we could achieve a pretty nice curve in the corners with minimal cutting. So with the placement planned out, my dad made the cuts on the wet saw. A bunch of people were super concerned about his safety last time they saw him cutting tiles like this in the tile trivets video. Apparently the blade is not actually sharp, it just grinds away at the tile, so he's able to get in super close and even touch the blade without worrying about injury. I'm certainly not recommending or endorsing touching the blade, but just saying. With the cuts made, I trace around one corner to create a rough template for all the corners. Once we get the full border drawn, I start cutting along the lines with a sharp blade. This veneer is pretty thin, so a utility knife should work fine. We have a border. Now, since this veneer is quite thin, we need to add a little bit more height to it to bring it up to match the height of the tile. Again, we want these to be flush so the tabletop can be nice and flat. So we cut these old pieces of wood that were left over from the entertainment center turned built-ins in the bedroom into very thin strips. Now we can cut the strips first to length, and then to the correct rounded shape to match our upper piece. We glue everything together, sandwiching the new strips between the tabletop and the thin veneer. This was super tricky since it slid around pretty easily, but once all the clamps were in place, it held its placement and could be left to dry. The next day, I removed the clamps and started adding the tile. I wanted to use up this ancient tube of liquid nails that I had lying around, but after spending ages squeezing it out and then starting to run out, I realized it wasn't sticking at all. So I scraped off all the glue, ran to Lowe's to get a new tube of Loctite glue, which lists ceramics as one of its applications, and started again with gluing the tiles down. This was so much faster, and I should have just done it this way from the beginning. I was trying to be thrifty here, but sometimes I need to learn that time is money, and I just wasted so much time here, so better to do it right from the beginning. With the tiles drying, I sanded a couple rough edges on the wood edges, and added some wood filler in a few areas off camera to make this joint as smooth and seamless as possible. Now we can grout. I'm using the same charcoal sanded grout that I just repurchased for the bathroom floor. I go into this process a bit more in my DIY tile trivets video if you want to see more of that. And with that, the table is finally done. Okay, so now that I spent most of the week just getting the front porch canvas ready to go, we can finally turn our attention to decor. Now, I mentioned that I've been finding diving into Halloween decor to be a little bit overwhelming. I have dubbed this feeling the Williams-Sonoma effect. I can imagine that if you're a regular customer at Williams-Sonoma, you could go in and buy 1 or 2 pieces and they'd be kind of pricey, but you wouldn't feel like you were breaking the bank and you were just kind of adding to your collection, right? No big deal. Walking in there as a beginner customer to me just feels so overwhelming because everything is so expensive and you feel like you can't just buy 1 or 2 pieces, you need to start from somewhere. To enter the Williams-Sonoma world at a low price point, you can buy like 1 towel or 1 soap and it just feels impossible to know where to start. Do you feel me on this? So this is exactly where I am with Halloween decor. I have nothing. I can go to the store and see a bunch of things that are kind of cool, but I don't want to drop a ton of money to get a collection of things, and if I choose to buy just 1 or 2 things, what do you buy? So naturally, I've been scouring the thrift store for interesting pieces over the last couple of months. I've also looked in my own collection of things that I already have that might work, and I've put together kind of a grouping of things that might work. And so for this, my first time solo Halloween decor experience, we're gonna go with what we've got and make it work. So let me show you what I put together here. Okay, so starting over here with these little glass cloches. These 2 at the bottom I already had on hand. I think I got this one at Goodwill and this one at the REISSUED for like $10. You might have seen them in the background of some of my other videos. This one's been chilling in my bathroom for a while. And then I also picked up this one here for this video at Goodwill. It's the biggest one and it was under $5, which is an awesome price. We might need to do some work on the base to make this work with everything else, but I think that these 3 together are really nice sizes, and I like that we can use something that we had on hand. Moving around the table, I have some little glass vases that I had on hand as well. I think this one was a white wine vinegar container, this one was from the REISSUED, and these 2 came from my mom's house. Not sure what we're gonna do with them, but I like that kind of apothecary look that they're giving. This wreath was a project that my mom and I put together ages ago, like years and years ago. I think she made the wreath out of twigs and grapevines that were in our yard, so that's a really nice base to work with. And then we added these fake magnolias, I think, and added a little bit of gold spray paint. I'm thinking that if we take off the flowery elements and maybe add some moss, that we can give this kind of like a natural witchy feel. I mentioned in my last Thrift With Me video that I was feeling really inspired by some of the booths at Decatur Estates when we were there last weekend. I really enjoyed the natural elements and this kind of dark academia, spooky, witchy vibe. Rather than doing happy, cheesy Halloween or super scary Halloween, I think this dark academia route fits more into my personal style and will merge nicely into the style that I already have going on. Over here we have a bunch of candlesticks. These ones my dad made. There was a tree branch that fell in our yard, and so he cut it up and drilled holes in the center. They're very kind of raw and natural, and again speak to that kind of witchy vibe. I also have some brass candlesticks and crystal candlesticks that I got from my mom's house. I think I had these out for Christmas decor last year, but let's make them work for this too if we can. I think they would be great working with these black candles that I got for 25 cents this morning at the REISSUED store. I also got this little black marble orb at the REISSUED store for $1. There's something about it that's kind of spooky. And then we start to feel a little bit more Halloween specific. I got this ship at the REISSUED store for $5. This was actually the reason I started making a Halloween video. I just thought it was so awesome. We had another one like this, and there was a customer that came in and said she was using it for Halloween decor, and I just thought that was the best idea. So I went ahead and picked this one up at that time. Next, we get even more on the nose with our Halloween decor with these plastic skeleton pieces. This skeleton was $4 at Goodwill, and I think the head fell off, so they priced it separately at 59 cents. I think I can reassemble that and maybe give it a nice paint job. And then this slightly larger plastic skull was 99 cents at a different Goodwill location. Again, some sort of paint job I think might help this look a little bit more elevated. And then finally, I thought some natural elements would bring this together and kind of give that woodsy, witchy vibe. This fern moss is the same one that I used in my kitchen. This was my first go at it, and I didn't water it enough, and it died on me, but months later, it still looks pretty good, and I didn't have the heart to throw it away, so if we can use that, that would be great. And then this bag is moss that Matt collected and preserved. Matt is really handy, and he likes to deep dive into his projects. He likes to do all the research and get all the right materials. So this is moss that he foraged and preserved and had left over from one of his projects. Since we're going a bit of a natural woodsy route, I'm going to do one more thing before I get started on these projects, and I'm going to take a little nature walk around the neighborhood, looking for any sticks or twigs or natural elements that might work for this. Let's go. With all of our materials assembled, let's get to work. We can start by addressing our plastic skeleton pieces and working to make them feel less plasticky. First, I go in with a sharp blade to remove some of the bigger mold lines that are making this piece scream, "I am plastic!" Then I paint all the pieces with a satin black spray paint to give them a chic, solid look. Since these bones are not to scale, I'd rather them look like they were crafted out of resin or onyx, rather than trying to be too lifelike. Next, I prep the new Goodwill cloche base for stain, and then used an espresso stain, the same one that I used to touch up the table earlier. Apparently there was more of a finish on the base than I had thought, since most of the stain just wiped away, but it did seep into the cracks and edges a bit and give a nice sense of depth, so I'm not mad about it. While all of those elements are drying, let's pull out the hot glue gun and get to work on the wreath. I started by removing the flowers and leaves and sorting through the bag of moss to find similar pieces. I think it will be important to group similar pieces together to make this look natural, but to create a somewhat even distribution of colors and textures throughout to make this feel balanced. This process was quite a bit trickier than I anticipated. I didn't have much of any one kind of moss, and it was just looking really sparse and just bad. This was definitely a trust the process moment. I found a little bit more of a rhythm when I started concentrating the moss at the top and bottom of the wreath, and adding some little pieces in between to create variety and a natural appearance. I think I might add more to this later, but for now, let's hang it in place and get a sense of the look. Now we can start to put together our cloches. I want these to feel like Natural History Museum meets Dark Magic Shop in Harry Potter. The black orb on a crystal candlestick is simple yet effective. Done. For the large cloche, I want to use some of the sticks that I foraged to create a sculptural feeling, kind of like these strange floral still life pieces that I saw this week at Goodwill. With some trial and error, I was able to find a shape that I like, and lock it in by pressing the sticks into this foam block that came inside a pot that I thrifted a while back. Alright, so I'm feeling really good about our progress today. I did take everything out into the front porch just to kind of get a sense of how things are going to work together, and I think I have way too much stuff to go on that little table there, so I'll have to really edit things down. So I'll see you back here tomorrow to finish off the front porch. Alright, we're back and ready to wrap up all the final details. Let's do it. I started by carving down the styrofoam block, curving all the straight edges, and trying to create a more natural shape. Then I can start incorporating some of the pieces that I foraged, and use extra glue to reinforce and stabilize the sticks. Then I start gluing on moss to cover all the styrofoam. I didn't really do this on purpose, but I ended up with a lot of the greenest pieces at the top and more brown and yellowy pieces toward the bottom, and that felt quite natural. I also added some bits of bark around the bottom to complete the base. I decided to add a bit of moss to the sticks as well, mostly at the joints where the limbs attach, since I noticed that occurring naturally outside. These tiny details really make a difference. I did end up adding more moss to the wreath as well, and was careful to cut away all the little hot glue strings. To reattach the skull to the skeleton body, I didn't have any E6000 or super glue on hand, so hot glue's gotta work. But no way is hot glue gonna support the weight of the body if I hang this from the head. So I looped some twine through the collarbones to support the weight. The head fell off again in the process, so I finished hanging it and then reattached the head in place. Alright, this is hands down my favorite holiday thrift find of the year. Are you ready for it? Ta-da! I found this for $15 at the REISSUED. I've never really seen anything like this before. It's kind of a rusty wire garden sculpture that is both definitely a creepy Halloween pumpkin man, but also a jolly snowman. So you better believe that this is going to be out on my porch all season. I'm going to light it right now in a way that's kind of dark and creepy, and then when we get around to Christmas time decor, we'll probably put some white lights on it and try to make it feel a little bit more sweet and less sinister. The table on the front porch was feeling complete, so I opted to add a spooky splash to the kitchen with the painted skull atop a tree branch candlestick under the final cloche. This ties in nicely with the skull kitchen towel I bought at Joann years ago. Alright everybody, I'm super excited with how these projects turned out and I can't wait to show you how they look. I think I really accomplished my goals here. We spent very little money, I used a lot of things that I already had on hand, we have a lot of items that will seamlessly incorporate into my decor in the off season so we won't have a ton of stuff to store, and even though I did end up stressing a little bit, I still had fun. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more DIY projects and seasonal decor videos like this, be sure to hit the like button. And if you want to stay up to date on my ongoing home renovation, be sure that you're subscribed. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.